Okay, welcome everyone to Council's ordinary meeting to adopt the 2021 Council budget. I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we're meeting and the lands to where tonight's broadcast reaches. We also pay our respects to their elders and to elders from other communities who may be in attendance. Given that we have councillors that are attending virtually, I will need to go around to make sure that they are able to see and be seen, hear and be heard. So we'll start with our Mellie Ward councillors. So Councillor Alan White, can you see, hear, be seen, obviously hear and be heard?
Yes, I can.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor David Viss?
Yes, I can.
Excellent, thank you. Our Mount Jeffcott Ward Councillor Milne, can you see everyone and hear everybody?
Yes, I can, Madam Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. Our Lower Avoca Ward councillors, Councillor David Pollard.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I can see everyone and be heard.
Excellent, thank you. And also Councillor Bronwyn Simpson.
Yes, I can see and hear. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. If a conflict of interest is declared by any councillors, the councillor that has the conflict will be removed from the meeting completely by being placed in a virtual waiting room and will be reinstated after that item has been dealt with. Councillors will vote by showing their hands, making sure that their raised hand is within shot. If any councillor loses connectivity during the meeting will be suspended briefly to attempt to re-establish connection. And if a connection cannot be re-established with all councillors, the meeting will continue provided there is a quorum. If council's broadcast of the meeting experiences technical difficulties and drops out, the meeting will be adjourned for 30 minutes to re-establish connection. And if the connection cannot be re-established, the meeting will be adjourned to a date and time to be advertised. So with that, I'll move on to the receipt of apologies, and we have an apology from Councillor Daryl Warren, and that is all the apologies that we have listed. Is there anyone that has any declarations of conflicts of interest?
Not at this time, Madam Mayor.
Yep, excellent. So there's no indication from anyone. Okay. So we'll move straight on to our item of business, which is the adoption of the annual budget 2020-21. So can I please have Ms. Hannah Yu to introduce that report, please?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I'm really pleased to present the proposed 2021 annual budget to Council this evening. The budget's been prepared in accordance with Section 127 of the Local Government Act 1989. We have a number of really exciting initiatives within the proposed budget, including a large investment by Council into infrastructure to support tourism with works at Lake Tyrrell, streetscapes and riverfront, as well as improvements to our road infrastructure, some important drainage improvements in Birchip and investment into Charlton and Witchy-proof early years facilities. In addition, the proposed initiatives within the budget include rebates for feeds for food and accommodation businesses in recognition of the economic hardship faced by some of our businesses within the current COVID-19 pandemic, as well as continued direct delivery of Council's library services. The proposed budget also includes a change in differential rates for farming properties down to 80% from 82% in the 1920 financial year. So Council released the draft budget in May for the purposes of community engagement. We received 6 submissions, which were considered by Council at the June meeting. The outcomes of Council deliberations of those submissions are captured within the report. Some of the feedback that were received during the submission process concerned the reported surplus of 5.7 million within our budget document. So to clarify for the benefit of the community, while the proposed budget includes a surplus amount outlined in the comprehensive income statement, there is consideration to an adjusted underlying result and also depreciation. So within the model budget document as it stands, there's a reference to depreciation, which is a non-cash item of 7.3M, but it also doesn't include the large capital expenditure budget item of 12.2M. So the reported surplus in the comprehensive income statement is really an indication of what council should ideally invest in asset renewal, the majority of which is asset renewal for our road infrastructure. Variations between the draft budget released to the community and the final proposed budget are outlined in the report, which includes timing to variations with grant payments, as well as additional funded capital works projects. Ultimately, there are no changes to council's bottom line as a result of these variations. And on adoption, any amendments which reflect those variations will be presented to council in October. And those variations will be used in financial reports for comparison for the remainder of the year. I recommend the 2020-21 annual budget to council for adoption.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Yu. So I am required to read out the recommendation in full before seeking a mover and seconder. So it's very long, so just bear with me. So the recommendation, can I please have someone to move that the council, having considered all submissions received in accordance with section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989, being the Act, 1, adopts the proposed annual budget 2021 document subject to the following amendments. Provision for development of Wycheproof Golf Club and Recreation Reserve Master Plan, inclusion of fully grant-funded Working for Victoria program, inclusion of fully grant-funded Streetscape Improvement program, inclusion of fully grant-funded Local Roads Community Infrastructure program allocated to small town streetscape and furniture, streetlight LED conversion, Tower Road and Industry Drive ceiling, and Charlton drainage improvements in K Street. Inclusion of fully grant-funded Sea Lake Tourism Hub development, inclusion of fully grant-funded Wycheproof Wetlands Mount Wycheproof improvements, inclusion of grant-funded Buloke Roads of Strategic Importance, and inclusion of fully grant-funded IT improvement projects. 2, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to give public notice of this decision to adopt the annual budget 2020-21 in accordance with section 130, subsection 2 of the Act. 3, provide the following details in relation to the annual budget 2020-21. There are no new borrowings proposed for the 2020-21 financial year. The rate in the dollar for each type of rate to be levied for the period 1st of July 2020 to the 30th of June 2021 is as follows. So we have the type of rate. Rateable residential properties will be 0.76495 cents in the dollar on CIV. Rateable commercial properties will be 0.76495. Rateable industrial properties will be 0.76495. Rateable farming properties will be 0.61196. Raise a municipal charge of $170 for each rateable assessment in respect of which a municipal charge may be levied, and levy an annual service charge of $422 for curbside garbage and recycling collection for the period 1st of July 2020 to the 30th of June 2021. Levies the general rates and service charges referred to in this resolution by the service notice on each person liable to pay such rate or charge in accordance with section 158 of the Act. In accordance with section 167 of the Act, the rates and charges declared by the Council for the 2021 financial year must be paid as follows. Instalment 1 by 30th of September 2020, Instalment 2, 30th of November 2020, Instalment 3, 28th of February 2021, and Instalment 4, 31st of May 2021, or by 9 equal instalments paid monthly by direct debit between the months of September 2020 to May 2021, or by lump sum payment made on or before 15th of February 2021. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to levy and recover the general rates and annual service charges in accordance with the Act, and determines that the proposed fees and charges for the 2021 financial year be adopted. Can I please have somebody to move that recommendation, please? Councillor Pollard?
So move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor White? It's a second. Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone opposed to the motion?
Oppose the motion, Madam Mayor, for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, no worries. So given that we've got some opposition in for the purpose of debate, Councillor Pollard, would you like to address the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to thank the staff for putting forward a very comprehensive budget, which basically is I saw it a cash neutral. It's money going in, money going out, in about the same cash position at the finish. And basically the huge capital works effort, and we need to get this budget approved to try and get some capital work starting so as we can get it completed in the 12 months. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor White, would you like to address the motion?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I do think this is a really good budget, not only because of the number of projects, capital works projects and other projects that we're doing, but because we have tried to make it as fair as possible to everyone across the Shire, and especially in this time of the pandemic where many small businesses in particular are doing it really tough at the moment. So by providing support to them, I think we are demonstrating that we hear what our communities are saying, and we know what they are going through, and also reducing our differential for the farm sector shows that we have listened to the agricultural businesses as well, because they've been saying for a long time that they don't think that it's fair that they get charged just as much as everyone else when they don't have access to all of the services as well. So I commend this budget.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not opposed to the entirety of the budget by any means, and I think that there's some great work and great initiatives being done and to be done that will be that are being foreshadowed in this budget. I think it's probably one of our better budgets over a period of years, given that we've had a lot of grant money come in that's allowed us to look at a scope of work that probably, you know, other than the first lot of the flood recovery road funding, this probably is, you know, one of our bigger budgets going forward. So I do, however, feel that that council could have adopted a no rate rise policy this year, and I understand that a no rate rise policy has a flow on effect, and it does affect, you know, a position going forward. It would have an effect on our 10-year plan and cumulative funding going forward. So I understand all that. However, I think that with the amount of funding that we've received, the fact that we've increased our spending on roads, which is always a major part of our capital works program, increased our spending from about $4 million to 8 point something million dollars in this financial year. I think, and having all those other projects that we've just heard and listed and seen listed in the budget going forward to bring our total spend to about $40 million, compared to what started out a few years ago as a $20 to $28 million budget after our financial fall. I think there was an opportunity for council this year to look at a no rate rise situation, and which was about $240,000 across the board, and have that put into place and save all our ratepayers a small amount of money in this hard time. So I hear and acknowledge the mover and the seconder and their reasons for this budget, and I support a majority of it. However, I can't support the rate rise of 2%. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? Councillor Viers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the chair. Firstly, I think this is a very responsible budget. I think that we also have to be very aware of current circumstances. There is a lot of works in the pipeline, and I think that if this budget isn't passed, it may, moving forward, be detrimental to our commitment to the large scale of projects that we do have, that we have to commit to, which virtually have to get up and kicking almost straight away. I think that the other thing that concerns me, and I do appreciate Councillor Milne's response on the budget. I'd also like to thank you for supporting most of the budget. However, I am worried of the fact that if we have to carry this zero rate rise, is the fact that moving forward after the COVID situation, I seriously think that that grants level of funding will dry up. And I think that we have to be very cautious of that. As we do know, a lot of our funding comes from grants-based projects. And I think that we do have to look at adopting that 2%. I did a little exercise. I spoke to a couple of ratepayers. My ratepayers are the ones that put me in this job, and most of them were for the 2%, providing that council was not put out and that it wouldn't affect any other projects or any other departments within council where that money would have to sit. So yeah, I'm wholly for the 2%. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Viz. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? No? Okay, well, with that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. And given that was our only item, we'll bring the meeting to a close, and thank you all for attending.